Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Millennial and Mom. We are here to talk about Married First Sight, Season 14, Episode 15. Forgot what it's called.
Past lives and open minds.
And I really was trying to keep an open mind for this episode because besides the cabin where everyone comes together,
Last week, right?
I typically like these episodes. Well, the episode where they go back to where they're from and they like read a letter to themselves because I'm always interested about the letter. But I kind of feel like this episode wasn't really needed.
I think maybe this season has drug on a little bit, and maybe because all the extra issues and things that we're having with this season. It just, it just seems like the episodes that are like 2 hours really could be condensed in 1 hour because it's truly harder and harder to watch. But like you said, or was thinking, we're just going to jump into this episode.
And keep an open mind.
So we start off with Michael and Jasmina, and he's driving and he's...
Before you get into Michael and Jasmina, I will say that Michael did open up this episode. It was his time to shine. And we actually learned a little bit more about Jasmina as well. Because people always say like, oh, we don't know too much about Jasmina. People, I mean you, because, I watch you in your reviews.
Okay.
But she really did open up this episode. And I was like, okay, I feel for Jasmina.
Actually, Jasmina and Michael have been opening up the last 2 episodes, really, since Dr. Viviana gave the last thing to do, the last task to do. I think they needed this the most, opening up and things like that. Plus, we also see Dr. Pepper come along, so I'm just going to say that real quick. But Michael is driving, and he's reminiscing about the old neighborhood and how things used to be, and they all do in this episode. But he goes on to say how he lost his brother, which we know Michael has had a lot of losses in his life, from his brother to his father to his mom to his grandmother. And he's just going about with this house that he goes see is really one of the one of the last times he's seen his brother. Because we learned how his brother passed away. Okay, because everyone else, his mom, his dad, and his grandma seemed to have some type of cancer. But his brother was actually killed in a road rage type incident where someone was like shooting in the car and his brother was in the back seat. And that's how he got killed.
Yeah, that's very sad. I don't understand why people get so angry over the road. I get it. Sometimes people are just frustrating, but it's never that serious.
No, it's not. And you know what? Once he gets to the neighborhood, of course, he's emotional, and they all are as the show goes on, about seeing his brother and talking to him and the things they used to do, like go to the park and work out, stuff like that. He's like, my brother used to get me up really early to work out. He just couldn't appreciate that then. Of course, hindsight for everyone is 2020. Okay. So he goes on to talk about the letter he writes to himself. And this letter is between the ages of I think it's 10, maybe 10 to 13 or something like that, like pre-teenage. And he goes on to say, to the older Michael, looking back, feel free to open up. It's okay to show your emotions. Hold on to your mom tighter, show her more love, different things like that, because, his mom beat cancer one time. And, we can relate to that because of my journey. And when it came back the second time, she didn't necessarily beat it. And he got emotional going back. And you can see and feel why someone would be emotional about that, just to share. And Jasmina was very open to what he was saying, And I wasn't surprised at that because, like I said, their communication has been growing more and more. What do you think about the letter?
I thought it was a very nice letter. Like I said, I give kudos to Michael because he is opening up more. So even if they don't make it together in this journey, I feel like one thing that Michael's going to take away is being more, which was a key word in this episode, vulnerable.
Exactly. And then, let's just jump to Jasmina. She reads a letter to herself as well. But before we get there, Jasmina, when she sees her old house, she reminisces about her childhood and how her mom and her dad left, or they didn't have the best relationship. She, once they got divorced, just like the family got split apart, and she talked about not feeling love from her first stepmother. And I'm like, my goodness, how many stepmothers have you had? She talked about her first one. Didn't show any love. And she said the only way, or how she found peace, was when she went to school, and it was Miss Potowski, if I'm saying it right, was a teacher who really honed in on her and helped her know her self-worth and showed her love when at home she wasn't getting into that stuff. And Michael asked her, so do you think that's the reason why you became a teacher today? And does she know that? And she's like, you know what, I really don't know. And I just thought that was kind of telling, you know, with Jasmina, even though she teaches preschool kids.
Well, does it make you have a little bit more like a softer image of Jasmina?
Yeah, it did come across a softer image, but I still...
No, for you.
Oh, no.
No, I feel like for me, it gave me more of a softer image because we just been seeing Jasmina just go so hard and be so tough and just a hard nut to crack, really. But with Michael in this episode, she really seemed to be vulnerable.
Yeah, but see, I also wrote in my notes that the reason why I say no is because, see, the last 3 episodes, they've been peeling away those layers. So you can see like little inklings of it, but still that communication, you can still see it's like tense. Even though they're seeing they're opening up, it's still tense to me. But in my notes I have, you know, like you had mentioned in the very beginning when we first started this season, is that they have been trauma bonded. And they have in many, many ways, not just trauma doesn't necessarily mean death, but just PTSD from the events in your childhood, not feeling love or not being able to express love or emotions the way that you feel they could be expressed because, you know, the way they would be perceived with other people. So that's what I got from that.
Yeah.
Now, let's jump to a quick scene. Okay, I know you said you want to jump into it, but we're going to see a quick scene with and Katina bonding. I just think this, anytime I see them bonding in a way, I'm like, okay, so maybe O is trying to be a little bit more vulnerable. That's the word of the day, vulnerable to Katina, you know, but I don't know.
What was so important about that?
I'm just saying, we just see like a quick scene of them bonding before they go to bed or something, just having, you know, little jabs at each other. Just, I don't know, it just seemed like maybe we're going to have a good episode with them, but I just had to say that. We also see a quick scene with Lindsay and Mark, but I won't go into it. But
I mean, might as well.
Okay, but here's the thing, and I try not to draw it out with them too, because Lindsay is always talking about how Mark makes her feel less than. And that's how we get their first quick scene. And I'm like, it's not just less than. Like every week, Lindsay, it's a broken record. I'm trying to see the reasons why it would be validated. But I'm not Lindsay. I'm not there every day. I don't know if I can see it. It's, you know, when you present your tone a certain way, it's kind of hard to see. But that's just me. All right. So let's move on to Olajuwon and Katina. First stop is at Olajuwon's old neighborhood. And in his words, he grew up in the ghetto or projects. Those are his words. He says he has 3 brothers and 2 sisters.
It was his word. And you know, I'm not trying to say that whenever someone thinks of ghetto or the projects, you think of African American, but in this context, only because he said this earlier in the earlier episodes that no black girl has ever liked him. I find that very hard to believe by where he grew up.
Well, that's what he said, so we have to stick with the story.
But we're going to move forward. Keep it open mind.
Exactly. But he tells Katina the reasons why he's so hard on, not on himself, but just on her. And I was like, it's no reason to really be hard on her because she either wants to change whatever she's doing it to fit you, because that's how he puts it, really, or she's going to change overall. Because from where he comes from, he's like, you know, his overall message was he has to work harder, he had to work smarter to get where he's at now. You know, he has his own house, he paid off his student loans, he went from high school to college, but yet she's still working on her college thing. See, at the same time he's saying this, but reeling it back in like, oh, but you're still 30-something, you're still working on this. I'm like, to me, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, see what I did, I made for myself this and that, but, you know, are you going to finish? Are you still, you know, going to go the same direction too? So I think to me that was, I don't know. I just didn't like how he put that
shade.
It wasn't a slight shade. It was all the way shade.
It was a slight shade because if she didn't get it, it was just a little, you know, maybe you could be doing this too.
No, I think she's been getting it. I think there's a lot of things that she's overlooking because he went on to say, you know, I know, even though in confessions, I know you grew up in the suburbs, or she grew up in the suburbs, so she can't relate. Those are digs. That's like, you know, you're trying to put out a compliment and trying to show your achievements at the same time. You're not supposed to knock somebody because they just so happen to have a little bit more than what your family had for whatever reason. That's not their fault. But you've come together now. You clearly had the same path on the same show, Married at First Sight, for possibly the same reason. So,
but what I don't like is he trying to say that, oh, because this is how I grew up, this is how I am. Mm-hmm. What does that have to do with you treating somebody a certain way?
He's trying to justify the reason why.
That's nothing, no correlation.
Hey, I don't know.
Let's continue.
Mm-hmm. So, I'll just put the same scenes with the same people. Mm-hmm. We also learned that Katina grew up in the church. She said she was there every Sunday. She said she had a good time growing up in the church. She had met her best friend there. And see, that's something that I wouldn't have thought just based on the cover of Katina, that she grew up in the church. That's just not something that just struck me with her.
Come as you are.
Come as you, yes indeed.
But Olajuwon said he grew up in a church too.
He did. He said his dad came to pick them up every Sunday.
Now that's something I didn't see.
Well, you know what? I think just by perception of their conversation that Katina got way more out of church than Olajuwon did. I think Olajuwon went because his dad made him go. Mm-hmm. Versus Katina, who actually went and tried to do whatever until she said her mom put her in purity classes. She was like, I just went anyways. Not like she had a choice, right? But she said she knew that she would be doing some other things sooner than later. I was like, okay, girl, go ahead, admit it now and shame to death. So they had they try to have nice little moments of trying to see like something there. But again, like with Mark and Jasmina, I don't see a spark. I'm trying to see a spark. I don't see
Mark
one.
And Jasmina.
I'm sorry, my bad. Mark and Michael and Jasmina, my bad. I know, but still, I don't see the spark. I'm trying to see the spark. Honestly, I don't see the spark with anybody. I think one person has a spark, but the person wife doesn't have the same spark, and that would be Steve.
Well, since you're keeping all the couples in one piece, what do you think about the conversation they had at the end with Dr. Pepper?
Well, since Dr. Pepper visited everybody, now which couple are we talking about? Because I talked about a few.
I'm only talking about Olajuwon and Katina.
Well, Olajuwon and Katina, what I thought was, Olajuwon was saying, again, they have open communication and things have gotten better.
They have open communication, or he just says what he wants?
They have open communication and things have gotten better. I still think he says what he wants. He did mention that they just had a heated argument and he was saying things that was out of line, but he came back in.
He told her to shut up.
And he came back in afterwards. He had to take a breath and came back and apologized. And he was like, yes, I appreciated that she welcomed me back with open arms and pretty much accepted my apology. But now that these episodes have gone along, I pretty much think that's who Katina is as a person. She wants to keep the peace regardless, even though I think deep down she knows what it is and maybe just doesn't want to maybe have it be like a not so good relationship, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But what do you really think about him just still on the topic of him not being too sure if she can continue with getting a bachelor's degree and going to nursing school and having a child at the same time?
I know. Again, he just thinks that what he has done was so much better and he's so much more prepared than her. Now, technically, you are more prepared. You're not better. But that is my opinion, that he's thinking that. He is more prepared than her because he did things the way, high school, college, whatever, high school, trade, whatever. Okay, true. But you can't keep reminding her, listen, I'm in this spot now and you're not. I'm trying to travel, you're not ready. How can we have kids and you're not? See, if you have to constantly tell someone that, I hope she does complete schooling for herself, but how's that going to make your communication more open and your relationship more open and more vulnerable and open to different ideas and suggestions if you keep telling me why I haven't been good enough up until this point? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think the same thing. Mm-hmm. And like his tears at the end, but I just want her to be better.
Yeah, but he also said his tears, he was like, well, I'm not going to tell her this in confessional. He's like, all the things we were saying. He doesn't want her to know. But Olajuwon,
that's not open communication.
She already knows. And it's not open communication. She already knows just by the things that she's been saying, that you've been saying, because if Dr. Pepper knows or the experts have heard.
Allegedly,
I'm just saying. So
I thought it was full of baloney.
you thought I was full of baloney?
I did.
All right.
Who's the next couple?
Well, we could talk about Michael and Jasmina with Dr. Pepper because we're back to the top with that.
Okay, yeah, go back to them.
All right. So Michael says that, and Jasmina, that they haven't had conflict in a really long time. Well, that's good. I mean, they're, again, trying to work on things, and, we keep hearing this same process week to week, with them, which is progress for themselves individually, internally, because they need that.
Yeah.
And Jasmina says the turning point for them was Dr. Viviana's exercise, which I touched on. And that's good, because you know what? Again, they both need this. To me, they were so closed off, not just with each other. I think just in general. You know what I'm saying? Like with day-to-day relationships, stuff like that. I just even reflect on her friend. Talk about, oh, well, you're just like, the things that you say he is. And she's like, no, I'm not. Just jumping back on that. But Michael says he's learned to accept himself, to open up, to allow Jasmina to, say what she needs to say and not automatically put those burdens on.
Yeah.
And Jasmina pretty much says the same thing. And they are both showing the example of
growth.
They're trying to grow and be in a relationship.
I feel like they're more so growing individually than as a couple.
That's what I was saying.
And you know what? Maybe that's what's the point of their journey, to grow more within themselves instead of being in a marriage, because they are not marriage ready. But can they be on the road to be marriage ready with other people? I can see that.
Yeah, eventually down the line. And then Dr. Pepper brings up well, have you been intimate? And the answer is no. At least they're telling us no. And I actually believe it's no.
I believe it's no too. Katina's not, attracted to him.
Jasmina.
Sorry, and I was stumbling. Jasmina is not attracted to him. She said that already. We knew that already. We felt that already. So it's that was that.
She was like, have you even tried to hold hands? And she's like, yeah, I felt him try to hold my hand, last night or in the bed, probably like reach over and touch her and stuff like that. So she's open to that. And Michael's like, he can't like force, and he doesn't want to force anything romantic if it's not there. And I agree. You can't force anything that's not there. And it goes both ways. All right, so let's move to Steve and Noi. Okay. Now, when we see Steve, when we see them both, they're on the way to Steve's childhood home. And the interesting thing about Steve's childhood home is his family still lives there. Versus everybody else, has moved on in life. They don't live there anymore. But Steve's family still lives there. It's a nice house out in the way. I don't know. I forgot where it was. But it's a nice house. And his mom is very welcoming. And Steve is showing Noi around. And at first, what I'm getting from Noi is kind of like, okay. Just kind of like, her face was showing that she wasn't really interested in being there.
You know what she reminded me of when I was watching this whole thing?
Okay.
Forgot what season it was, but Katie and Derek. When Katie went to Derek's house and he was showing her around and then all the other stuff happened, that's what Noi reminded me of. And I was kind of annoyed with Noi because I'm just like, how are you going to kind of like shade him on his little stuffed animal?
Yeah, because he was saying, it's nice that pretty much things have gone full circle. Me and my brother's siblings have grew up here. Now my nieces and nephews come here, and we're bringing our wives here. He went in to show the room where him and his brother slept, the same room with the different beds and stuff like that. And he showed his first teddy bear. She's like, oh my God, in confessional. Like he still has that at 38. I'm thinking like, why not? Because now it's the grandkids' room, stuff like that. I'm like, he's showing you his house. Right. And you know what? In my notes, I actually wrote, and I didn't even have to write this. Just off top, I'm thinking, okay, so the childhood that you had from what we've known, and she says it again later, how can you knock somebody because they're showing you what's in their childhood home that's still their childhood home, showing you everything in there and just showing you how things are sentimental, and you just like, oh my gosh, because you didn't have that? That's what I didn't like about it.
Or you don't like it.
For whatever reason. Like,
maybe, you know what? Maybe she doesn't feel like he's like manly enough.
Well, he doesn't still live there. I can see if he still slept in one of the beds in there or something.
Just like some of the stuff she be saying. That's what I'm getting. But the best part of the episode, if you ask me, was the mixtape.
we didn't get to that. Well, go ahead, talk about it.
It was funny to me because of mom who's seen the whole lyrics. Get down.
Get down.
Get down.
Yeah, who knew Steve was in his yearbook?
Down.
He was voted best dancer. I was like, okay, Steve. He made mixtapes and rapped along with his friends when he was like 15 years old. I thought that was the business.
I like Steve.
And you know what? He said he was a hometown celebrity. They had burned CDs and everything. I was like, okay, Steve. And they played it. And mom was like,
slanging CDs in 2001.
Hey, you got it. No, he graduated in 2001, so it's been like 99,
2000. Who he thought he was? The Hot Boys of Boston?
He was, yeah, hey, there you go. He was a hot boy.
Shake the rumpa.
Did he ever say what his name was?
They did in the thing.
I
forgot what it said.
Drop it in the comments if you know. But I was like, okay, Steve, see?
That was the best part. Like, Steve, how can you not like Steve? Steve is an all-around guy.
And some people don't like Steve. Hey, some people...
No, I don't like Steve. I don't understand why she doesn't like Steve.
Well, when Steve... Okay, that's true. Noi has her own issues, too. She's also PTSD. A lot of couples and individuals on here, have PTSD from childhood trauma. Like, seriously. Allegedly.
Not allegedly. That's your opinion.
Well, in my opinion. Okay. So, but when we hear a letter from Steve to himself, I think it was a normal letter. He was just talking about the things that he would go through while growing up. And he didn't have anything negative to say, just be more positive, more open about the world and the progress and success. So not really too much to write down. And I was like, I got it. Pretty much, there it is. I got it. Was not really much to say about Steve.
Well, he didn't have to go deep because he's pretty much been an open book
and stable. He had a stable childhood, stable life growing up, and a stable work life now, clearly, or non-work life, whatever he's done with his money. But when we get to Noi, I'll just jump right into her. Of course, again, if you don't know, Noi came from an immigrant household where the family had to like do odd jobs or work jobs that they really didn't care to work, working in factories and, slaughterhouses, stuff like that. And Noi said that she wasn't able, or it was frowned upon to express her emotions when she was younger, probably for her and her siblings, and how she always felt like a burden, and how they didn't have much. And I think that has really kept Noi back, not just in relationships, but particularly this relationship when it comes to marriage being settled down. Because the reason why I say this particular relationship is because previously Noi said that she has followed different men to different places for a relationship. So I don't know where she correlates the independence with that in or what, or her independence or her emotions with that, but some kind of way it circles back around, I guess. I don't know. But it does seem a lot of Noi needing a certain type of, I don't know, what she need?
Certain type of affection
And security. The word I'm looking for is security. To help her move forward, just in everything. And I think that has stemmed from a lot of their miscommunications. All right. So when she writes a letter to herself, again, she's mentioning that the burden, her feeling like a burden, and just opening up. And she said, one day you'll be able to express all those things and it'll be okay. So hopefully she got a little breakthrough from writing her letter to herself, but I don't think she necessarily got one with Steve, because
Steve didn't go through nothing like that.
So with the connection part, because Steve mentions the social media thing, and she says the reason why she hears what he's saying, but she feels like that's part of her being independent and keeping her independence because she was never allowed to have any while growing up. So that's where she finds that's where she expresses herself and things like that. So she said she's scared, but hey, I already noticed she was scared about something, just didn't know what it was in particular. So when Dr. Pepper comes to meet with them, again, it comes up about, what's going on and how have they felt along the way, communications, because she has heard, there might be some things that they're not necessarily getting along with. And what would you say that Noi got from the meeting with Dr. Pepper?
Nothing.
You don't think so? I think Noi got a little bit from her, from the questions she was asking, especially about the, can you see pretty much where Steve is coming from, opening up, and why it would hurt him and his feelings?
I say nothing because it was just her facial expressions. I mean, yeah, she's granted to make any kind of facial expression she wants, but that's also part of body language. And if you're not really, I mean, you're here for what they're saying, so you're just like nodding, like, yeah,
Yeah.
And then it's just like a, At the end, you really don't care because what she say, she's going to do what she's going to do anyways. She's going to feel how she wants to feel.
Yeah.
If Steve does not get that 9 to 5, if Steve don't get rid of that little titty, if Steve don't start being more of a man, Noe's not here for it.
Yeah, and
no
then,
matter what anybody says.
And then when Dr. Pepper brought up the living situation when they have children, like I heard that you don't necessarily want to stay together, married in the same, together in the same place if you say yes on decision day, and then they start laughing because Dr. Pepper is married now in her second marriage and they don't live together versus her first marriage. She said even though we were married but we were raising kids and we were together. And Noe, is like, well, we'll just have to work that out. She's fine with like living apart. I mean, I think she's so set in her independence that she's not even flexible.
But that doesn't really make sense to me because how you're fine with living apart but yet you're following all these men like you're on 90 Day Fiance.
I don't know. So let's move on to Mark and Lindsay. And okay, we learned that Mark's cat that he's had for 14 years has passed on, and Mark is not feeling good about it. That was a quick scene I didn't touch on. But now...
See, no, that was a good quick scene. The old
Okay.
one, but little cutie dying, like, that really touched on my heartstrings because you could see how sad the kitty was. Like, the kitty just knew.
Yeah, but he was 14 years old too, but they gave him love, so they try to comfort the cat beforehand. And you know what? That's where you can see Lindsay. She's showing little glimpses of little something.
I will say this about Lindsay. Lindsay might have a mouth on her. Lindsay might not be America's favorite. But I will say that Lindsay has always been there for Mark throughout his many of humps that he has throughout the season because he's been through it.
He has been through it, but when he's gone through it and they get into it, like the next episode, she gonna throw that back in his face, too, like with everything else. So that's
a double-edged sword, right there.
That's where her points get lost with that. So, but
she can keep a 0.5.
But Mark and Lindsay, same song, same dance every week. They have communication errors. They just can't seem to get past any hump. Not just one hump, any hump. Just Lindsay always feels not heard, not wanted, dismissed. And Mark always feels like she's too much. She's overbearing. She's
hyper.
So let's just jump into we see them.
You are over them.
I am.
Just get to their family's house.
No, that's where I was going. We're just jumping into their Mark shows Lindsay the family house, and he's saying Mark is emotional. He's just emotional this entire episode, really, from the cat to this, because he's had so much loss too, and his dad is gone, and he's saying like the house is different with a different door, and the neighborhood is different, but he's like he remembers his dad sitting outside enjoying the air and him playing outside, and his mom would be so overbearing. She'd be like yelling out the window, talking about, what are you doing out there? Nobody's gonna be waving at you. It was just it was emotional for Mark, but at the same time, it's like, I hope that they can just get past this part of it and just make it to the end of the episode just like on a high note. Like, seriously, I'm just like, please do that. Because you know what? Mark touched on my heartstrings with this episode because he had just gone through so much with just, I don't know, you could just tell.
He was going through it.
You could just tell he was going through it. And then when he wrote the letter to himself, Mark was an only child, so he really didn't have too much of an outlook because, like I said, his mom was overbearing, his dad was more passive, and I think he just felt like he was stuck in the middle, and he's trying to tell himself that things will work out along the way too. And then we get to Lindsay. We didn't see her childhood home, but she said that she lived in a place where there was lots of area with forestry and nature, and she always liked being outside because her mom was the way she was to her. She didn't feel the love, and her dad was gone all the time.
But she did take him on a trail, though.
Yeah, it was a trail. Well, Mark was like, I'm not going on that. But she already knows Mark that's not trying to do new things. He don't even eat new things. If it's not the chicken nuggets and the french fries, goldfish, he's not trying to do all that. But Lindsay's note to herself was the same thing that she's been saying every episode. And I'm thinking, like, did you just write this, Lindsay? I just hate to do that. You know, because she keeps...
Listen, it's just like an assignment for school. It's either you with it or you doing it in the last 15 minutes before first period.
Yeah. I think...
That's who Lindsay is.
But you know what? I think that Lindsay overall had good memories for the most part as she got older and became, you know, in the career that she got into. I just think that she maybe hasn't found, and she even said it out of her mouth, the right person to be with, honestly. So that was really the episode.
That was the episode. And besides, you know, Dr. Pepper talked to them about the same thing.
Yes, I mean,
about communication that they never seem to get over, because it's either Mark is doing something kind of passive in my perception, or Lindsay is, you know, going on 1,000. It's just never a middle with those two, and I just don't think they should be together either.
No.
But we are one more episode before decision day, unless they decide to hit us with a, you know, a flashback of the season.
I hope not. I hope
in
we're
between, because I cannot do another 3 prolonged episodes allegedly, and then you already know the reunion. Hopefully, usually they do it one, right?
Part 1 and a 2, but
No,
yeah.
I'm just talking about part 1. That's it.
Okay, well, we'll
Hopefully that's what they do, but I kind of feel like that's not what they're gonna do. But we never know. But overall, Ma, how did you feel about this episode?
see, now you're dragging this review out.
I just want to know how you felt about it.
I just
overall.
thought this episode again was an hour too long, and I think that really we should just saw the meeting with Dr. Pepper, and that's it.
Their letters.
And their letters,
Maybe
and that's
they
it.
go out on a little dinner or something.
Yeah, that's it really, because we really didn't learn too much new. Honestly, a lot of the things we learned along the way with them as the season has progressed. So, I don't know.
I would have to agree with you. So let us know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for subscribing to us. Thank you so much for hitting the thumbs up and liking this video for us as well. We do have some things coming up really soon, so stay on the lookout for that. Mom, take it away.
Thank you all again for watching, and as always, live simply, be grateful.